just here to add some value, and this is one of the things that I wanted to do at the turn of the decade, was to give back. Okay. How are you all managing January? So I'm not sure if any of you saw my video, but I've got a brilliant January tip. Okay, so payday's coming up soon, but just to survive and stretch and push it out a bit. You ready for it? Okay, double up on the milk. Okay. So just a few quick things if you wouldn't mind. Phones on silent, please. General questions, like I said at the end. Very informative and nothing for sale. After this, I am not going to be in touch with you. So this is not a hard sales environment. If you would like help, if you would like assistance, Salomi's got our attendance list at the end. We can tick your name off. I'll then get in touch with you. Otherwise, I have business cards. You can phone, email, WhatsApp, Zoom, Facebook Message. We are going to have these events once a month. We'll touch on that at the end on what's coming up for next month. Again, like we say, our community initiative. I must just unfortunately put out a little bit of a disclaimer. Tonight, please don't take what I say as directed at you. This is not my advice to you. It's general sharing of knowledge and answering questions. It may or may not be suitable in your environment. Okay, so please take that to heart. If you want to discuss things further, like I say, book some time and we can chat on it. Okay. We work in a highly regulated environment, so I have to do this. Okay. My reasons why I'm a financial planner, I've been doing it for 12 years, and again, why I'm doing this tonight. I believe by education you can make informed and empowered decisions, which will help you with your planning and where you want to get to. It's to be a coach, to be involved, be a catalyst for change. Often I'll get the phone call, and I had one last week, someone needs to now buy a new car, thankfully for the right reasons, not for something flashy. And they're not quite sure how a balloon payment works. Should they have one? Shouldn't they have one? What's the pros? What's the cons? They are not a salary earner, so there might be tax advantages, might not. And that's the discussions I like to have with my clients. Okay. Habit designer. Sounds quite cool. It's to bring in little steps that you can put in place, once again to create that financial freedom or the goals that you are looking for. So, for instance, I was chatting to a running friend 2-3 months ago. They've cancelled DSTV because they've now got fiber finally in their complex. Guess what? We saved $1,000 a month is what she tells me. So brilliant, and where are you going to save it?
Hello.
Hi. Couldn't answer that question. But you haven't saved R1,000 there. You're redirecting that R1,000 somewhere else. So I like that idea, potentially. Cancel DSTV, stream things. And if you are generally saving 600, 700, 800 Rand, save it. There are only two things you can do with money at any point in time. Spend it or save it. If you're saving it, you're just delaying your future spending. But that's how it works. And then to be that go-to guy. So like this person, should they buy a car with a balloon payment or residual or not? Having those discussions. So financial planning for me is not about selling policies. That's how it was done in the 70s and 80s. We whipped out the yellow pages, went door to door, hit and run on the back of a cigarette box. Financial planning today is so much more involved, so much more technical, and we can do such wonderful things. Now, how do you pay for that? Guys, nothing is for free. Financial planners aren't ETV. Okay? If a financial planner tells you something's for free, it's because it's being built into a product, or it's being paid, it's collected from you, paid by the insurer or the investment house on your behalf. All fees should and must be disclosed. All commissions earned must be disclosed. So nothing is for free. And I'll get on my soapbox of it. Don't expect it for free. You don't work for free. So having someone that's got professional qualifications, that has to do CPD events, so to continuously improve their learning and education and understanding within the profession, costs money. And we should be happy to pay for it. However, know what it is, know what value you are getting for it, and make sure it's worth paying for. Don't also necessarily take the first offer. Should your financial advisor be someone that's independent, so they have no influence by any insurance house, or should they be tied to a specific provider? Both are good. Both have merit. Okay. There are some brilliant financial planners I know that work for XYZ insurance company. Fair, they can only offer that company's products, but the advice they give and the planning that some of these professionals give is exceptional. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. Also, and I'm independent, and I won't go back, well, I never was tied, and I won't become a tied, meaning you work only for one provider, because I don't believe one product is perfect for every person. And sometimes no product is also perfect for someone. So a couple of years ago, I was having an interaction with someone, the most beautiful budget I've ever seen in my life. The chap was an engineer with 2 master's degrees. This thing had macros and graphs that moved and colors that came on and off. It was stunning. But on it was a big red box at the bottom. And I'm like, and this? And he says, no, I'm in deficit of almost 9,000 Rand a month. So, and he's built it. This is his budget. And I said, but why? And we're looking through it, and he's categorized vehicle expenses. So him and his wife's cars, the repayments on those, the insurance on those, and the fuel spend was almost 30,000 Rand a month. So he's chatting on that, and what do you drive, and why do you have it, and what does it do for you, and do you feel it's worth it? And I said to him, look, you're in almost 10,000 Rand a month worth of debt, negative cash flow here. Perhaps it's time to make some modifications to the vehicles, because that's an easy one. Change your house, a little bit more challenging. Closes his laptop, puts his finger in my face, and he says, my boy, I have 2 master's degrees. I will drive XYZ car. Now at the time I worked for a bank that had a lending division, and 4 months later both his cars were repossessed. The reason I got to sit in front of him was his banker asked me to meet with him because he wanted to start a unit trust investment. And I refused. Because he needs to pay off debt. At the time, his Westbank car finance installments, the interest rates on those, were above 11%. I can't get you a guaranteed return above 11%. So let's redirect that flow into settling your debt. Yes, saving is important, vital. But if you're paying 11 and you're earning 7, you're still going backwards. Obviously, he didn't want to have that conversation. And unfortunately, he lost both his cars. Okay. So it's also not to say, well, look, I've got a credit card debt of 4 grand, and because I've got that, I'm never ever going to save. That's also not the right answer. But let's manage that, and that's where it's individual circumstance. What's critical for me in all our conversations is what's important to you, what are your goals, and what do you want to achieve. I get it a lot. I want the investment my neighbor's in because it's done so well for the last 5 years. And they'll rattle off a fund manager's name or a particular fund or whatnot. But that's potentially just in isolation. You will have a very different experience investing in XYZ fund today compared to someone that invests tomorrow. Literally a day apart. Still for 5 years. So it's, let's maybe learn, let's get educated, let's know what our neighbors do. Let's not necessarily copy them. We're on our own path, we're on our own journey, we're there to get somewhere. Let's try and create that plan to where we want to be. Nice easy analogy. You all left somewhere to come here tonight. Some knew where to come, some didn't. You used Google Maps or Waze or whatever navigation system. That gave you a plan to get from where you were to where you need to be. Now along the way there was a roadblock, a traffic light was out, an accident, a pothole, and you deviated. Well, that clever algorithm recalculated for you and still got you here. That's what financial planning is about. We know where we want to get, and sometimes that vision is very far, 20, 30, 40 years away. And a hell of a lot's going to happen in the middle. It's impossible to plan for all of it. But let's know where we want to get, and let's build steps in the meantime to achieve that and work towards it. And as life will throw you these curveballs and these obstacles, let's adjust that plan. But as long as we still get to that desired outcome. Okay. We have a couple of chairs here if you'd like. And this was something that I learned from a wonderful colleague, is as long as we get you to that end result, the story in the middle is going to be different for everybody. And your experience is going to be different for everybody. That's why don't compare. I enjoy this speaking and presenting and sharing ideas. I was at a company recently where they took in 5 new graduates in their call center. All 20 and 21 years old. The company doesn't offer any group benefits. It's cost a company. Here's your salary and you figure yourself out. But they asked me to come and chat about retirement savings. What 20-year-old wants to chat about retirement savings? Okay. It's an interesting concept, because what it was 10 years ago, the conversations I had then are very different to the conversations I have now. And for a 20-year-old today, we can't understand what that's going to be in 40 years' time or 50 years' time. But the concept is more around start saving, start investing. And I said to them, literally, start with $200 or $300 a month. Get into the habit of every month you're putting something away somewhere. Doesn't have to be a retirement annuity. And they have their pros and their cons and their place or not. And I showed them, we did a very, very basic calculation. So 300 Rand a month for 40 years. I was conservative, I assumed a 9% return with only a 5% increase in contribution. We got a figure. I should have brought the figure. But we got a figure, whatever it was. Delay that by 5 years, but keep all the parameters the same. They lost 1.5 million Rand. Delay that by 10 years and that lump sum halved. The benefit of time and the benefit of compounding is astronomical. The unfortunate reality is many start some sort of savings or investment plan, and a year or two down the line they're like, yeah, but I've put in 10 grand, 20 grand, 30, whatever number, and I've only made 2. It's much the same when you pay off your home loan. For that first 10 years, all you're doing is paying off interest. You pay very, very little capital. The same when you invest. Your 1,000 Rand that went in this month, at the end of the year has had 12 months. Next month's 1,000 Rand has only had 11 months. Next month's 1,000 Rand has only had 10 months. So we can't say, yes, it makes 10% return, so I put in 12 grand, therefore I should have made 1,200. It's not possible. The same when I look at retirement planning with clients that are getting there at 55, 60, 65. That curve goes up astronomically in those last few years. It's almost as if nothing happens. And it's much, I've been told, because I don't have a green thumb and I don't know, to me everything's a tree. But when you plant that seed, we don't dig it up every week. What does it look like this week? And what does it look like this week? We bury it, we put nice nutrients into the soil, and we water. And we pray in 20 years' time we have this wonderful tree to sit under. But we need to monitor it constantly. Okay, this is where it's a joint relationship between you and your financial planner or financial advisor. And I'll touch on my differences between those titles. But ladies and gents, it's your money. So I get it a lot. XYZ product is rubbish, I've contributed 100,000 Rand, I've got less than I put in. I'm like, but how often did you speak to your chap? And I haven't spoken to him in 10 years. Okay, but why? It's your money. Own that. If you're paying someone a fee within reason and understand what that value is going to be and that service agreement is going to be in touch with them. It's your money, it's your goal, it's your plan. Okay. we're undergoing tremendous change in our profession in South Africa, and there's some really, really good things coming, and I think they're great. And it should get rid of a lot of salespeople and have a lot more advisors. So these would be generally single need. You need cover on a bond for your home loan. You want education savings, you want retirement savings, a specific need, and you want just advice around that need. Okay, much like when we go to the doctor, and I say I've got a sore throat and snotty nose, he doesn't do a full medical, he fixes that problem, because that was my need. Financial planning is we now take everything. Where are you today? What have you got? What is your entire balance sheet? What is your entire income and expenses? Where do you want to be? Where do we picture you in 3 years' time, 5 years' time, 10 years' time? And what do we, because I like using the word we, because I feel like I go into a partnership with my clients. What are we going to do to help you reach that? And for me, it's the most satisfying when I sit with someone 3, 5, and 10 years later, is seeing, if as long as we're both stuck to the plan, seeing it work. And then coaching goes along the lines with planning, because it's not about selling you something. It's about building that dream and holding you accountable to it. So, how many of you have done like me? You go and sign up with a gym membership and you clap that thing for 2 weeks and then you continue just paying a debit card. Okay, you hire that personal trainer because Frank knows what he's doing. I don't listen to Frank, clearly. Okay? I know how to do a push-up. I know how to do a sit-up. But I'll pay some guy to meet me 3 times a week at 5 in the morning to tell me to do that. Think of your financial planner as that person. You probably know how to do a hell of a lot of stuff. We might just know the nuances that you don't pick up on. Or how when you make a change here, how it affects this. Okay. That's a lot of the questions I get is, I want to invest, but I'm going to pay tax. And because I pay 40% tax, I'm going to pay 40% tax on everything. And why should I invest? Because I'm going to give SARS all my money. It doesn't work like that. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. Okay. There's a lot of great things that SARS allows us to do to pay less tax. That's another discussion with another speaker. Okay. But it's understanding that. That's the value that we can add. Some basics I feel should be part of everyone's financial plan, and some of this will apply today to some of you, to all of you, to none of you. Because again, it depends where you are in your life and what's important to you. So, you should have a budget. It doesn't have to be this thing with macros and flashing lights and sounds. Basic, take your last 3 months of bank statements. Maybe now's not a great time because December we overspend. But take 3 months of normal bank statements. Figure out where your money is going. Figure out what money is coming in. Hopefully that should still be a positive on the money that's left behind. Because I'm sure everyone in this room works very hard for the income that they earn. Make your money work just as hard. Okay. With that, you need to know now your cash flow. The second to that, none of this is really in 1, 2, 3, 4. That's why I didn't put numbers. These are all just critical things. Have a will. Seriously, like really, really, have a will. Guys, 2 weeks ago in my complex, the chairman of our homeowners association passed away. This is a very educated man. He's written 5 books. He's been on SAFM, etc. His wife sends me a message and she goes, "We didn't finalize some things. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next month." His bank accounts have been frozen and they're married in community of property. Okay. Unfortunate reality, and I'm not trying to sound horrible, you're all going to die. Plan for it. Okay. If you're single, maybe not as important, still important. Married, very important. Have kids, well then you're just a negligent parent. If you don't have a will, okay, here's what happens. The state can decide where your kids go. All your assets will be sold into cash and given to the state's guardians fund to look after for your kids. You don't want that. Okay. Also, please don't have a DIY will. Law is complicated. And that's why a lot of lawyers specialize only in one thing. Like conveyancing, or only divorce, or only estates. Right, so make use of that, make sure you understand your will. Make sure you understand the jargon within your will, what each person's role is within that will. So for instance, an executor is the person who winds up your estate. Essentially, they take your will and they just read it line by line. And they go, Terence Tobin, want to do blah, blah, blah. Okay, let me go do that. Okay, line 2. Okay, go do that. You've got to make sure what you put in there can be done. And I want to say this with an asterisk, easily. So I sat with a couple last year. His parents live in the UK, her parents live in Australia. If they both die together, the kids must go to their parents. To which country? Will the parents move in together so they all live with the grandparents in which country? So yes, it can be done. It's not necessarily easy or practical. Okay. You don't have to make a will exceptionally complicated. It can literally be a 2-3 page document. But for instance, things with minors, or sometimes spouses that perhaps can't manage money. Or there's someone in the family that you want to leave money behind, or assets, wealth to, that have a physical or mental disability. We set up something called a testamentary trust. That's only set up on the passing of that person who created that will. So there's no cost to do it now. But again, that means that you'll have clever and competent people managing that money for the benefit of that person, not the state. Okay. We all want to have our spouses as executors on our will because then we don't have to pay a fee. The bad news for you, if you've done that, is the master doesn't allow it anymore. They want someone that is competent by education, so you must have a degree, or qualification suitable to wind up an estate. You must prove that you know how to do this. Now, my wife teaches geography to teenagers. She doesn't submit her own tax return, neither do I. I've got a very competent person who does it for me. We are not each other's executors. We have competent legal people and we are co-executors. So the lawyers can go and sit in SARS for 6 hours and drive to Joburg CBD to do property transfers and conveyancing and whatnot. She can take care of the easier stuff. Have that arrangement, by all means. And then negotiate with the company that drafts your will, or the executor that's going to then wind up your estate, because the executor's fees are governed, they're set by Government Gazette at 3.5% plus VAT, which is 4.02. In English, that means 40,000 Rand per million Rand of assets. 40,000 Rand gets paid to someone to do what your will says. It sounds like a lot of money. You can't pay me that to go and do your estate, no matter how easy or complex it is, because I've seen it. And how complicated and the nonsense that people have to go through to wind up estates. Pay a professional. There are companies that will do it a lot cheaper, and attorneys and legal firms, and they'll often do it based on what your current balance sheet is. So now if you're worth R1 million, they're not really going to negotiate. If you're worth 5 million Rand, negotiate. And then there's also ways to structure your estate right now that's very tax efficient. And these are those conversations. Protect your breadwinner. Today, most households, there's generally, if there's more than one person living there, there's more than one breadwinner. Or we share. Who wants to take a gamble at what your most valuable asset is? Take a swing at it. Your income. Your salary, your ability to earn and generate revenue, cash flow that can come into your home. If something happens to you today and that stops, MTN don't care, DSTV don't care, medical aid don't care, like you pay us or we cut you off. Or we come take stuff away. Okay, protect your income. Every single person that earns an income should protect their income. Even more so when there's multiple shareholders in your income. So one spouse earns 50 grand a month, the other one earns 10. The 10's important, but the 50 is a little bit more. So make sure that that's looked after, that if something happens, that can be replaced. South Africans are great at insuring stuff. like our iPhones and our laptops and our cars, but we never look after ourselves. Your income is what makes that stuff a reality. If that disappears, this will also. Okay. Sad reality is that we will suffer an illness, an injury, or a disability prior to the age 65. 1 in 3 people will. Will. Guaranteed. South African stats from 2017. Make sure that you don't have a financial problem. Give you a practical example again, recent claim I had. Lady was out with her running club. As you can see, I'm a part-time runner. Didn't see a pothole, manhole wasn't covering on the pavement. Tripped, shattered her shoulder, collarbone, had to go into Santon Clinic for surgery that afternoon. She's a contract worker. This is now on her left-hand side, she's left-handed. She couldn't work for 7 weeks. No work equals no pay. Company don't care. Thankfully, she's one of them that listened to me and had income protection or income replacement. That covered her expenses, and because of the nature of her cover and the setup of her cover, she got paid out a little lump sum due to the injury, and that surgery was needed and it was an emergency. Didn't make her rich, but she paid all her debts. She paid all her debit orders. She covered her living for 8 weeks. Here's an interesting one. She couldn't drive to physio. With left hand, in a sling, manual car, dangerous. She had money for Uber. She spent 3,500 Rand on Uber. She had money for that. It's these little things that we don't think of that medical aid will not cover, but that still have an expense. Okay, so that's a very, very big one. Save for emergencies. This is kind of like an insurance policy, but it's your money. Everybody should have at least 3 months of living expenses. Living expenses in a money market or similar type account. This is not hunting for the best interest rate. It's not looking for clever things. It's not looking for bells and whistles. Literally, get a money market account at your bank. Whatever the interest rate is irrelevant. And build up 3 months of living expenses, minimum. If you are not a salary earner, because then you probably don't get sick leave and things, 6 months. And that's going to take you years to build up, depending on what your income is and disposable income, etc. But if you don't get paid, or you can't afford to get paid, or you don't have income protection, or whatever the case is, once again, bond or rent must be paid. Medical aid must be paid. Cell phone must be paid. You've now got this money. Okay. Can be things like, and again, practical example, client bought himself a brand new car. He often does trips out to the northwest into mines. Didn't see a massive crater, not a pothole, and blew out both tires on the left-hand side of his car, cracked a rim. Cost him 4,000 Rand to get a flatbed to tow him back, and then he was going to figure out his insurance, and 11,000 Rand to replace the tires on the rim. That's what an emergency fund is for. Don't go into debt for that. Yes, we can swipe a credit card, but why? Once we've got that, then I say we start now doing some planning for tomorrow. What does tomorrow look like? Overseas holidays, providing for the kids, providing for yourself, starting another business, buying rental property, so you want to build up deposits. Let's find out all those reasons and what your goals are and what your objectives are for tomorrow. And let's start making those a reality. Okay. 4 letters there on the side. Just sum up roughly what I've said. The D, death, disability and disease cover. R, retirement planning. I for investments, and E for estate planning. Roughly, that's financial planning, very simplified. If you can tick everything off on this slide, you're 95% sorted. And you're probably 99% better off than the majority of the people in this country. And it doesn't matter if you earn 5 grand a month or 500 grand a month. Same problems apply. Same needs are there. We'll have different goals. Okay, we're coming up to a very good time of the year. It's tax year end next month. Those of you that are contributing to retirement plans, retirement annuity, pension fund, or provident fund, you can contribute an amount of money to it that's tax deductible. So it lowers what you would have earned, so you can pay a little bit less tax or get a refund, depending on how that is structured. If you can afford it, take advantage of it. A lot of those products allow you to put in a lump sum contribution. Okay, 2 grand, 3 grand, 5 grand. Don't downplay the impact of that over years to come. Increasing your monthly contribution from 500 Rand a month to 600 Rand a month makes a significant difference over time. It's also not a full 600 Rand, because depending on where you are in your tax tables, you might only be paying 400, because you get a refund or a deduction from SARS of 200. The next big one, and it's very much misunderstood, so I think I'll touch on it a bit, is your tax-free savings accounts or tax-free investment accounts. These are really good products. So in a nutshell, you can contribute 33,000 Rand per year per South African taxpayer or South African citizen into that. Whether that's 33 grand or 1,000 Rand a month and 5 grand here and 2 grand there, it doesn't matter. 33 grand per tax year, 1 March to 28 or 29 February. All that money in that product grows tax-free. So there is no interest tax payable on it. There is no capital gains tax payable on it. That's when you now sell out and you take your money back. That growth, tax-free. And all dividends in it are tax-free. That saves you 20% dividends tax. But I don't like the name savings accounts. They are not transactional. So what I mean by that is you're allowed by SARS, and maybe this will increase next month when the budget comes out, 33 grand a year, but 500,000 Rand of contributions in your lifetime. Now no one's there yet because it's only been around 4 years. Okay. Any money you take out of it, and when I say take out, not between funds, so let's just say you moved it from fund A to fund B, but it stays in the tax-free, that's cool. But if that money leaves that tax-free and touches your bank account, that's a withdrawal. That reduces the 500,000 Rand limit. And you can never, ever replenish it. So for the last 4 years, you've put in 30 grand, 30 grand, 30 grand. So now you've got 120, you're like, oh, Mauritius holidays are special. It's my 10th wedding anniversary, we're going to take spouse overseas, let's take out 50K. Your lifetime limit just dropped from 500 to 450. And it will never, ever go back up. So you think of tax-free accounts as really, really long-term investment products that'll give you a good return, sometimes a great return, because you're not paying any tax on them. However, make sure that what's in the tax-free account, because a tax-free account, much like a retirement annuity, gives no return. I hope I blew someone's mind. There is no interest in an RA. There's no return in a tax-free account. It's what that money buys. It's the assets that it buys. So if it's at a bank, it's going to be money market. If it's through an investment house or a planner, generally it's going to be unit trusts or what's called exchange traded funds, ETFs. That's the stuff that makes money. That's what generates the interest, the dividends, and the capital gains. And depending on what product you have, will depend how it's taxed, how accessible it is, how it's dealt with in your estate. And that's why not one product is better than the other. They have their place. I believe tax-free accounts and retirement products, so RAs, pension or provident funds, are very complementary and can work very well together. Because if you contribute to a tax-free account, you can't deduct your contributions. They're not tax deductible, like retirement products are. But they are tax-free payouts. You can access all that capital one day. So if you've been contributing for a great amount of time and it's now grown, and remember I've used the word contributions, that tax-free account will exceed, hopefully over time, that 500,000 Rand. That's great, there's no penalty for that. That's what it's designed to do. If you over-contribute, there's a tax penalty of 41%. So in this year, if you put in 40 grand, not 33, that's 7 grand, you're going to be taxed at 41%. So don't over-contribute either. Okay.
500K, is that for you as a person or for the product?
For you as a person. Brilliant question. These limits are per person, not per product. So you can have multiple tax-free accounts. You're just going to then have to divide your limits amongst them, which might dilute it a bit, the return. And also, the less money you have in a product, often the fees are a bit higher. And it's like buying in bulk. The more money you've got, the cheaper the fees become. But now, one day that tax-free account in 10, 15, 20 years' time is now at R1 million or 1.5 million or 2 million. You can draw an income from it. You can draw capital from it. You can take interest from it and pay zero tax. That's powerful. That's amazing. So now when you retire potentially one day, you don't have to cash out your RA and pay tax on that. You can keep that below the tax threshold, and you can top yourself up with your tax-free account. And you can still live on 20 grand a month, tax-free. So that's why they're complementary, but they're not one better than the other. They both have pros and cons. There's yet to be the perfect product. Okay. Wealth creation takes time. We can speed that up by our contributions and how we manage our money and our cash flow. But there's no get rich quick. No one ever does. But we can create wealth maybe quicker. But, and it was in a great book I read once, an overnight success takes 20 years to build. Okay. My dad asked me to help him with his pension fund. And when we looked at his statement 5 years ago, there was a figure in it. He's now retiring in July. Yeah, his salary's gone up by inflation each year, and his contributions obviously matched that, etc. But that capital value's almost doubled. Doubled. And our markets have gone nowhere. That's the power of compounding. Because 10% return on 100 grand is very different to a 10% return on $1 million. So the longer we can delay that, and this is now a conversation I'm having with him, it's his circumstance, is he's got some liquid money, he's got some shares. I'm like, don't retire. Use that money, let that pension fund grow. You don't need it for another 7 to 10 years until this is depleted. But that's also a scary thought. But then what happened to all this money? Okay, but this money doubled, which is more than what that was. But then we do cash flow planning. So how much do we need to live on? He's still trying to work that out. It's been 6 months. It can't be that hard. Okay.
So Terence,
Yes.
does your dad pay you fees
Yes.
for advice?
Yes. Absolutely. There's only 2 people I work for free for. Me and my wife. And my daughter, sorry. No. So everyone must pay. Okay. Obviously he's going to get very, very, very cheap. Also, slightly biased here, and I'm trying to tell him, because he's asking, which is great. I love clients that ask questions. Okay. So if you ever sit with me or when you sit with me, please ask questions. I might not always have the answer, but I'll know someone who does. Okay. But those ideas and that advice and that planning takes time. We've got resources, we've taken time to get educated. So he used to work in a trade and now he works at government. So that's where all your money's going. But I call out an electrician, 600 rand, bam, just for him to pull into the driveway. But I must now plan someone's income potentially for the next 30 years, make sure it doesn't run out. How much is that worth? And also what I'm trying to explain to my father is, this is now recorded, so it's a bit dangerous. He's going to get the bestest advice. Because I don't want him a liability on my balance sheet. Okay, I don't want him at 84 going, I can't afford medical aid, so unless I pay it, he's going, like, I'm going to make sure that money lasts. Also, I'd like some inheritance. Okay. But those are the conversations I have, and you can see it's quite real. So, here's an interesting one I saw on Twitter a couple of days ago, and I asked permission by the person if I can use it. And it's a really cool concept. Consistency will give you outcomes, which might give you a positive or negative result, depending on what you're consistent in doing. But I really liked that. Okay, I'm not saying don't go and enjoy life. Okay, so let's plan for tomorrow but live for today. I still enjoy a cappuccino. Yeah, they're expensive, but I'll now have 2 or 3 a week, not 2 or 3 a day. Okay, now I'm putting myself on the line. Ask me anything, almost. Okay, general Q&A.
I would like to take you back to the tax-free account
Yes.
for a newborn baby. Do you put it on? Who do you put
Great
it on?
question. And there's a lot of opinion on this. Okay. So the question is, tax-free accounts, okay, a newborn child or toddler, do you put it in their name or the parent's name? If you put it in your name, you're using up your lifetime limit. Your 33 grand, your $500,000. Equally true, if you put it in their name, you're using their lifetime limit. I'm putting it in my daughter's name. Because I really don't think when she turns 20 and I go, yeah, my girl, here's $2 million. She's going to go, you used my limit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to put you through varsity, I'm going to buy your car and there's a house. Yeah, but Dad, you used the limit. I don't think I'll have that problem. That's in my house. Also, over time, these limits have increased. So when tax-free account launcher was 30 grand a year, it's now 33. They're only, I think this is year 4 or year 5. No one's near this $500,000 rand limit. But that's being thrown around. Also, when they launch, people are like, what's 30 grand? Well, that's 2,500 rand a month. That's a hell of a lot of money for most households. So majority of people are nowhere near that limit. So if you were contributing the maximum, which is now 2,750, it would take you about 16 years to reach $500,000. If it grew at 9%, you're sitting on about 2.1 million bucks. You made 1.5 million rand, tax-free money. $500,000 was yours. Yes, the catch is now it's in your child's name. So as they turn 18, they're now an adult, they're a major in the country. If they find out about it, they can just go and access it. So it's a pro, and you know what, it's personal circumstance. You've got to look at your situation. But in a household generally, I mean, you can have one for mom, dad, and each child as an example. Okay. Again, depends on budget, time frame, circumstance. Whether it's a lump sum, I've got many clients in March each year, they just chuck in the lump sum. I've got some that do monthly, like me, and then put in lump sums during the year. I haven't maxed my tax-free account. I'm going to work on it now to try and get it done next month. Might not get there. It just means I've got longer to get to the lifetime limit. So don't think again, like I said, and I just want to put it out there again, tax-free account limits are per person. They should be in assets that grow, that generate dividends, because that's where you really enjoy the beauty of the tax-free nature of the product. And then you want that thing as cheap as possible. Be careful with the fee discussion. Sometimes cheap also comes at very low return. So let's have that viewpoint. Often what I do for clients with a tax-free account is, let's do the planning, let's do the advice, I'll charge you a once-off fee, but that's it. There's no ongoing or annual fee. It doesn't mean I never not look at it, but you know what, it's a low contribution product for long-term growth. Because hopefully one day you've got that 2 or 3 million and you come to me and you go, right, now I want to invest that. Well, what do we do with that? So it's got to, you know, swings and roundabouts. Yes?
Is it the same as the ones that you have like on Standard Bank where you can go into the app and just open and say, open an account quickly in the tax-free savings account? Is that
That's the one.
Oh my gosh. Because I've just been putting money in and withdrawing and putting money in.
So that's a problem.
Oh, yeah.
So please stop withdrawing. Although a tax-free account can be done like that, I want you to think of it as a one-way door. It's only money going in and you only take it out once you've reached your limit. Okay.
Can a beneficiary of a will be the executor as well?
Yes. They can, as long as that will is outlined very specifically, and you've got to be careful from a conflict of interest point of view. What is very important in that situation is that person cannot sign as a witness on that will, because that will invalidate that will. So your rule of thumb here is anyone mentioned in a will or who will benefit from a will should never sign as a witness. Okay. You also want to make sure that any changes you make are always dated, placed, you sign it, and witnessed by 2 individuals over the age of 14. Because our courts believe that from the age of 14 you can understand right and wrong and reason. So you can stand witness in court. 14. Interesting. Don't do that, get an adult, but yeah. Okay, and also please, don't think of your will as a static document. So don't draft it today because you just got married or just got divorced or whatever the case is. Cool, I got a will, it's in the drawer, and hope for the best. Read that document every 2 or 3 years and adjust it as necessary, especially with life events. So marriage, death, divorce, children, assets change significantly. Also, don't be too specific in your will. So I've had ones where someone will go, we live in XYZ Street in Ferndale, that house can never ever be sold. It must go to my son. What about if Ferndale one day became a place that no one wants to live in? Okay, so you don't want to be seen to be ruling from the grave. Put parameters in place, but make sure that they are fair and ethical. As if you were still here, would you have done the same? Okay, let's do one more question.
Emergency funds.
Yes.
You said just get a money market, put it in there. Is it not worthwhile if you have a home with an access bond, rather put it into the bond, and that becomes the accessible in emergencies?
Very good option, if that's the only money you're putting in bond. Because some like to also pay their bond off quicker. So now, was that money that's in the bond your extra payments, or is it your emergency fund? But remember now, when you take it back out again, your repayment's going to go up, your debt level's going to go up. So no, it's not a bad one. Please just make sure your bond is an access bond. So I had this discussion with someone, they thought it was, they put money in and it turned out not to be an access bond. Okay, and then you're back to square one. But no, absolutely. You know, I'm saying money market. What I'm trying to allude to, and I used to work in a bank, don't put it in a 32-day account because the interest rate is 2% better. Your emergency is now. It won't wait 32 days. Possibly. Put a month aside and then put the rest in a 32-day. Possibly. Because you know if it's really hit the fan, you can get it out. And you might have to pay the bank a fee or a penalty each year. I'd rather just not have that. Okay. The same thing, sorry, I'm touching on like using your home loan, because that's generally the lowest interest rate on the debt you will pay. If you're going to use that to finance a vehicle, please still pay your vehicle off in 5 years. Don't pay it off over 17 years because that's what's left on your bond. Because you just paid that vehicle off like 9 times. Okay, it's like the most expensive Corolla you will ever buy. All right, so not a bad thing to use your bond, but if you've got normal finance and it's $5,000 a month, pay that into your bond. Pay off that vehicle just as quickly. On debt, and that'll be my kind of last one, is and this again, personal circumstance, snowball effect. Pay off your most expensive debt first. So on some, and I've seen them, store accounts and credit cards, they're at 25 to 30% a year. If you pay the minimum installment, you will never pay that thing off, ever. Mathematics, it's impossible. Okay. And then you take that payment of 1,000 Rand a month that you were paying Jet or Ackermans or Woolies, and you put that into your next thing with that repayment. You'll just halve that time frame. Now you take that, you put that into like the car repayment, because that's probably the second cheapest. And then the rest into your bond. But it depends again on personal circumstance. Very last question.
Okay, I just want to find out about the protecting your income.
Yes.
Do you mind just expounding on that? I think I've heard a couple of times where I get a call from the bank and I hear income protection plan. Is this what you're referring to?
Yes, but they're not all the same.
Okay.
Okay. So, in a nutshell, what it's supposed to do is if you suffer an illness, an injury, a disability, some of them retrenchment, for a period of time, it'll then start paying you a monthly income. Okay.
Percentage.
Yeah, a percentage.
Yes.
Okay. Some are very antiquated in the fact that they'll have it only at 50% of your income or 70%. Some you can protect 100% of your income. It's going to be expensive, maybe. My next question also is, depending on what the situation is, but if you now suffer something that's permanent and you get a lump sum payment to pay off your bond, pay off your car, pay off your debt, you still need 100% of your income. So save on premium now. So mine is only 60% of my income. Because if I pay off my car, my house, my dinner, that's 40% of my budget. It's gone. Okay. I've also seen, so please be careful, those of you that are self-employed or you're a director of a CC, a PTY, you are the business, don't buy retrenchment cover. You can't retrench yourself. You can't claim it. Okay, but I've seen it. Okay. So what you will have on all income protections is called a waiting period. Depending on the company, the product, and your circumstance, they can be 7 days, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. This means it's like the excess on your car. How much can you self-fund before the insurance must pay out? So if you generally take a 1 month waiting period on your income protection, the doctor books you off for 6 weeks. The first 4 weeks, that's your problem. You must find money. Those other 2 weeks, the insurance company will give you part of your salary. Okay, those payments now are tax-free. Okay. What often is the stumbling block on those is when you look at them on your insurance portfolio and you look at the premium, you're like, good grief, this thing is expensive. Like I'm paying 600 Rand a month for 20 grand cover, but my life cover is only 100 Rand. Please don't look at the 20 grand figure. Because it's not 20 grand they're protecting. It's 20 grand times 12 till you're age 65. That's potentially 5, 6, 7 million, 10 million. So if you submit a claim and you're now permanently disabled, they've got to pay you out 7 million Rand until retirement time. Sadly though, some companies, they'll reassess you in claim. So your leg was amputated in a car accident, but every year you've got to prove that your leg was still amputated to get your next year's payments. Some go, well, sorry you lost your leg, here's payment. And you can choose to have it monthly or as a lump sum, depending on your consultation with your doctors. So there is no one size fits all. It's very much look at what you've got. And then my last one on insurance, ladies and gents, is please be careful of bells and whistles. Please be careful of things that offer you substantial discounts or paybacks of premiums or things like that. It's all priced in. Nothing is for free. There are super duper clever people working at these insurance companies. Okay, they can be fair if you use the system correctly. But the big one here, and this is what my closing one will be, is please look at what your premium escalations are on your cover. Because for most of us, we buy cover and we want it for a long time. But sometimes guys sell it you really, really cheap. So you get in today. And then those things escalate every year, 10, 11, 12, 13% a year. Don't know about you, but my salary doesn't go up 13% a year. So it just means in time to come, you won't afford that policy, possibly when you need it the most. Okay, the same with your investments. Don't be stuck on a decision because it was a good one at a time. So buying into a particular insurance company because you see their adverts on TV and they're all over the place and they've been around for 50 years, investment house I mean, doesn't mean you should stay with them for the next 50 years. Regularly review, but don't necessarily regularly change. Because that's also bad. It's counterintuitive. Thank you all very much for your time. I've thoroughly enjoyed this evening.